Never before in the recorded annals of modern warfare has any adversary been subjected to such overwhelming, unambiguous, and catastrophically decisive large-scale losses compressed into such a short span of time, a matter of mere weeks that will be studied in military academies for generations to come. Our enemies are suffering defeat after defeat, bleeding resources, losing ground, and watching their strategic ambitions collapse in real time, while America, as it has been throughout 5 extraordinary years under this presidency, continues not merely to hold its position, but to surge forward with a momentum and a confidence that grows stronger with every passing engagement. We are not simply winning, we are winning bigger, bolder, and more completely than at any point in recent memory, and the world is watching with a mixture of awe, respect, and in certain capitals with a very justified measure of fear. Deep in the dark, oil-black waters of the Strait of Hormuz, where the fate of global energy markets hangs in a perpetual and fragile balance, one of the most audacious, precisely engineered, and breathtakingly executed direct action missions of the entire crisis unfolded beneath a moonless sky, hidden from the world by the absolute cover of night. United States Navy SEALs, the most elite, most rigorously trained, and most lethally capable special operations warriors on the planet, had been tasked with a high-stakes, high-consequence raid designed to seize, neutralize, and permanently deny the enemy the use of a heavily fortified Iranian oil platform that had been repurposed and converted into something far more sinister than its original industrial function. This was no longer simply an energy extraction facility. It had been transformed by Iranian military engineers into a forward command post and drone launch base of significant operational capability, embedded in the middle of one of the world's most strategically vital shipping corridors. From this single reinforced structure rising from the waters of the strait, Iranian forces had been coordinating sophisticated mine-laying operations that threatened the safe passage of commercial vessels from dozens of nations and launching Shahed drones, cheap, expendable, but operationally effective, directly at passing oil tankers and cargo ships attempting to transit the waterway. The disruption to global trade had been severe. The threat to energy security had been real and growing. And the decision had been made at the highest levels that this platform needed to be taken down, not from the air and not from a distance, but up close, in person, and with the kind of decisive violence that leaves absolutely no ambiguity about the outcome. The mission parameters were stark in their clarity and uncompromising in their ambition. Storm the platform under cover of darkness before any alarm could be raised. Eliminate every armed threat with speed and precision. Capture key intelligence materials, computers, communications equipment, operational maps, drone control systems, and any personnel of significant intelligence value before they could be destroyed or evacuated, and deny Iran permanently and irrevocably any further use of this outpost as a node in their campaign to strangle the flow of commerce through the strait. No conventional forces were assigned to this operation. No Marines, no Army Rangers, no air assault infantry. This was, from its earliest conception in the planning cells to its final violent execution in the darkness above those black waters, a pure Navy SEAL operation. Every element of the plan, every contingency, every assault route, every extraction sequence, all of it belonged to the teams. At a forward naval installation positioned in the Arabian Gulf, the SEAL platoon conducted its final mission briefing in a dimly lit compartment deep within the hull of the USS John C. Stennis. The room smelled of electronics, weapon oil, and the particular kind of tension that exists only when highly trained men are preparing to do something genuinely dangerous. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hale stood at the front of that room, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp and unblinking, addressing his operators in front of a large holographic display that rendered every structural detail of the target platform in precise three-dimensional clarity. The model rotated slowly and silently, its blue light illuminating the faces of the operators seated before it. Every significant feature of the platform was annotated and examined in detail. The guard positions established on the upper decks, where Iranian sentries maintained their watch over the waters below. The central control tower, which served as the brain of all operations conducted from the platform. The drone launch pads arrayed across the lower level, from which the Shahed drones were assembled, checked, and dispatched against their targets. The helipad that sat on the platform's upper surface, and the underwater structural legs, where Iranian fast attack boats were moored in the darkness below the waterline, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Commander Hale moved through the briefing with the methodical, unhurried confidence of a man who had planned and executed dozens of operations of similar or or greater complexity. He traced the infiltration routes that each team would follow to reach its assigned position. He explained the exact timing windows that would govern every phase of the assault, accounting for tidal movement, guard rotation patterns, and the approach angles of the helicopters. He laid out the 4 assault teams and their specific non-negotiable objectives with absolute precision. Team 1 was assigned the helipad and the platform's communications room. Their job was to prevent any distress signal from being transmitted and to deny any aerial evacuation of personnel or materials. Team 2 would drive directly into the drone storage area, clearing it of any armed resistance and securing or destroying the drone systems and their associated munitions. Team 3 bore perhaps the most critical assignment of the entire operation. They would breach the command tower, neutralize its defenders, and take into custody the senior Iranian officer commanding the platform, a man whose knowledge of the broader mine laying and drone operations in the strait represented intelligence of potentially enormous strategic value. Team 4 would position itself in Overwatch, providing precision fire support to any team that encountered resistance beyond its immediate capacity to handle, and would serve as the primary response element in the event that Iranian fast attack boats attempted to flee into the strait carrying personnel or sensitive materials. Commander Hale looked out at his men before concluding, his voice carrying the quiet certainty of a man who believed completely in what he was saying. "We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we own that platform before they can send a single distress call." Every SEAL in that room received those words in absolute silence. No questions, no expressions of doubt, only the focused inward attention of professionals who were already mentally rehearsing their movements, their sight lines, their sectors of fire, and their actions on contact. They had trained for this kind of mission not dozens but hundreds of times. They knew what to do. They simply needed the order to go and do it. Following the briefing, the platoon moved without ceremony or hesitation to the armory to begin their final equipment preparation. They pulled on their dark tactical dry suits, carefully inspected and fitted their closed-circuit rebreathers, which would allow them to operate underwater without producing the telltale bubble streams of conventional scuba equipment, and attached their suppressed MK-18 carbines fitted with high-performance night vision compatible optics. Each operator carried substantially more ammunition than a standard combat load, along with flashbang grenades for room clearing, precision breaching charges for locked doors, and fortified hatches. To comprehensive individual medical kits and flex cuff restraints for the prisoners they intended to take. The designated snipers within each team carefully zeroed their suppressed MK-13 rifles, dialing in their adjustments for the ambient temperature, the slight ocean breeze, and the specific engagement distances they expected to encounter across the platform's decks. The combat divers among the platoon, specialists within a force already defined by specialization, conducted thorough checks of their underwater propulsion scooters and confirmed the readiness of their limpet mine packages, which would be needed if any Iranian fast boats required silent, untraceable disabling before they could escape into the strait. Throughout all of this preparation, the emotional register of the room remained steady and controlled. There were no theatrical displays of aggression, no performative bravado. These were men who had come to exist in a state of professional calm that those outside the special operations world often find difficult to comprehend. The danger they were about to enter was real, substantial, and potentially fatal, and they received that fact with the same quiet equanimity with which a skilled surgeon receives the gravity of a complex procedure. On the flight deck of the carrier, 2 MH-60S Nighthawk helicopters and 4 combatant craft assault boats had already been prepped by their crews and were fully ready for launch. The SEALs assigned to the boat element boarded their rigid-hulled inflatables without a word spoken above the ambient noise of the ship. The CCA boats slipped off the carrier's side and into the dark water one after another, running low in the swells, their specially muffled engines producing a sound barely distinguishable from the natural movement of the sea around them. Simultaneously, the 2 Nighthawk helicopters lifted from the flight deck and immediately descended to nap of the Earth altitude, flying so close to the water's surface that radar detection became effectively impossible, their rotor wash leaving brief disturbed patches on the sea that vanished almost immediately behind them. The helicopters carried the sniper teams and would transition to an Overwatch hovering position the moment the assault began, providing both eyes on the objective and precision fire on any threat that emerged on the upper decks. 20 minutes after departure, the CCA boats were within striking distance of the massive oil platform, its lights reflecting in broken patterns across the dark water below. The operators cut their engines and allowed the boats to drift silently on the current for the final 100 meters of approach. Every man communicated exclusively through hand signals, a language developed through years of shared training until it required no conscious translation whatsoever. The two assault teams designated for helicopter insertion moved into position as the Nighthawk swept silently overhead, hovering with extraordinary precision above the platform's upper decks. Fast ropes dropped from the aircraft and the SEALs descended in rapid, controlled slides, hitting the deck within seconds of one another. Simultaneously, as the boat teams positioned their CCA craft alongside the platform's underwater support legs and began their ascent using specially engineered grappling systems and silent climbing rigs that had been purpose-built for exactly this kind of platform assault. Within 90 seconds from the moment the first rope dropped, all 4 assault teams were in position on the platform. Not a single alarm had been raised. Not a single radio call had been made. The platform's defenders had no idea that they were already surrounded. What followed was swift, precise, and absolute. The perimeter guards on the upper deck were neutralized by suppressed rifle fire before any of them had the opportunity to process what was happening. The drone storage facility was cleared with a single, ultra-perfectly executed flashbang breach, the disoriented occupants offering no coherent resistance before they were restrained and secured. Team 3 moved on the command tower with the kind of speed and violence of action that allows no effective response, breaching the reinforced door with a shaped charge that produced a sharp crack, immediately followed by the entry of multiple operators moving in coordinated sequence. The Iranian commander was taken into custody before he could reach any communications device. He was secured, flex-cuffed, and removed from the room. The entire platform passed from Iranian control to American control in under 6 minutes from the first contact. One Iranian fast attack boat cast off from its mooring below and attempted to accelerate into the darkness of the strait. But a single suppressed shot from a SEAL sniper positioned on the upper deck found the engine compartment from 300 meters, killing the boat's propulsion immediately and leaving it adrift. The surviving crew surrendered without further resistance. The remaining guards on the platform, recognizing the totality of what had just happened, offered no further fight. With the objective fully secured, the operation entered its exploitation phase, while the assault teams maintained security over the prisoners and methodically swept every level of the platform for booby traps, explosive devices, or hidden personnel. The platoon's intelligence specialists went directly to work. They interfaced with the platform's command computer systems and initiated data extraction protocols, pulling operational files, communications logs, targeting data, and coordination records that represented a potentially comprehensive picture of Iranian mine laying and drone operations across the strait. They photographed operational maps, drone control interface displays, communications equipment configurations, and every document of potential intelligence value they encountered. They physically seized several encrypted laptops and a collection of communications devices for subsequent technical exploitation by analysts ashore. Meanwhile, the combat divers slipped quietly over the platform's lower edge and descended through the dark water to the structural support legs, where they methodically attached their limpet mine packages at precisely calculated intervals and depths, setting delayed fuses that would initiate controlled demolition charges later in the operation timeline. With every objective achieved, every prisoner secured, and every item of intelligence value either extracted or documented, the exfiltration sequence began. The Nighthawk helicopters returned to their hover positions above the upper deck, and the SEALs moved their high-value prisoners and their collected intelligence packages up through the platform to the extraction points. Fast ropes were deployed again, and operators descended with their materials to the waiting aircraft below. The CCA boats pulled alongside the lower platform decks and received the remaining operators in organized, rapid sequence.